Have a nice evening. We'll see you tomorrow. Here's CBS.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. President Reagan today tried to stop talk that his drug enforcement policies are a failure and that he is to blame. Mr. Reagan blamed it on partisan politics. He did that during a campaign-style speech at the Coast Guard Academy. He did so amid new polls indicating voters believe the Democrats perhaps can handle the drug problem better, amid the furor over his possibly dropping the Noriega drug indictments, and amid new attempts by Vice President George Bush to be seen as tough on drugs. Bill Plant begins our coverage of the war on drugs and Campaign 88.
With the drug issue generating new political heat, President Reagan visited the U.S. Coast Guard to be shown how it fights the problem. Polls are showing dissatisfaction with administration drug policy, and critics charge the White House is giving in to Panama's drug-running General Noriega. So Mr. Reagan warned that politics is getting in the way, and he called for a new bipartisan approach to the drug war.
If America's anti-drug effort gets tripped up in partisanship, if we permit politics to determine policy, it'll mean a disaster for our future and that of our children.
But at the same time, the president attacked Congress for cutting the Coast Guard budget, and he pointedly praised candidate George Bush. A Republican senator traveling with Mr. Reagan says there's no getting politics out of the drug issue in an election year.
You're not going to depoliticize the issue. Every candidate, every senator, congressman, presidential candidate is going to be out there talking about drugs. So is it going to depoliticize? The answer is no.
And even as reports continue that the administration will drop drug indictments against Noriega if he steps down from power, Mr. Reagan was talking tough enforcement to graduating Coast Guard Academy cadets.
The next step is to enforce a policy of zero tolerance of illegal drug use. So when we say no to drugs, it'll be clear that we mean absolutely none, no exceptions.
If zero tolerance mean that after you indict Noriega, that you negotiate with the bandit that you believe is a drug trafficker and then drop the indictment and dismiss it, to me that violates international law and does violence to the United States criminal justice system.
The president's chief of staff, who has called the dealings with Noriega a plea bargain, sees the situation through different colored glasses.
There's nobody that's tougher on drugs than this president and this administration. And I don't know any other administration who's ever stepped up to the batter's plate and said Noriega must go.
The subject of today's speech was switched from the upcoming summit to drugs after the staff detected a groundswell of discontent. The question is whether calling for a bipartisan commission will get the president and George Bush out of trouble on this issue. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
It was the ultimate anti-drug photo opportunity, with polls showing drugs as the #1 campaign issue and voters believing that Democrats can handle the problem better than Republicans. George Bush toured a Los Angeles crack house.
It's not show business. It's trying to learn and understand and then take action. And that's what I want to do if I'm elected, and this is extraordinarily helpful to me.
The crack house was one of 112 the LA police have hit this year.
No retreat, no surrender. We're going to win this damn war. We're going to put those little SOBs in jail where they belong. We're going to bring peace and order to this community.
Bush has taken a high profile in the Reagan administration's war on drugs, but it's a war they're losing. In the last 3 years alone, the Drug Enforcement Administration estimates that more than 2 million pounds of cocaine have been smuggled into the country. White House negotiations with Panama's Manuel Noriega, who's facing 2 drug indictments in this country, have given the Democrats even more ammunition against Bush.
We've seen this romance from talking with Noriega, to marriage with Noriega, to indicting Noriega, now to moving toward exonerating him, to restoring him back to power.
How do we tell our kids to say no to drugs when we have an administration that can't say no to drugs and drug dealers?
But today, the vice president tried to distance himself from the talks with Noriega.
I won't bargain with terrorists. I won't bargain with drug dealers either, whether on U.S. or foreign soil.
But Bush's Republican allies say the Noriega negotiations could torpedo his campaign.
I wish and would hope that the vice president would stand up and say, I'm not going along with this. It's wrong. It sends the wrong signal, the wrong message. I want to tell you something. If he were to do that, he'd turn this thing around.
The election is still 5.5 months away, but Bush is finding it as difficult to take the offensive on drugs as the LA police. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Jesse Jackson campaigned in California today amid some of the tightest security yet. This follows the arrest of a Missouri couple on charges of conspiring to harm or kill Jackson. Federal officials say Londell and Tammy Williams describe themselves as white supremacists but have not been linked to any well-known hate groups. Jackson says this won't crimp his campaign.
We will not lower the moral tone of our campaign. We will not surrender to the dream busters. The Secret Service and others will handle the dream busters. I will keep interpreting the dream and keep hope alive.
Tonight, the Secret Service found a 9mm bullet under a seat on the Jackson campaign plane. They launched a search of luggage and handbags. No further details on that. Just days after firing his chief spokesman for reportedly not defending him strongly enough, Attorney General Ed Meese and his personal lawyers today came on strong and came out swinging. The Justice Department issued this latest defense of Meese's ethics and conduct in office, prepared by Meese's personal attorneys. They dispute a Senate report that accused Meese of violating White House ethics policy by helping the now indicted defense contractor WedTech. Meese's rebuttal says his WedTech involvement was minimal. There's an answer tonight to a question that bothers a lot of people. In this high-tech age when computers move millions of dollars effortlessly around the globe, how safe is your money in a bank? Following our story of last night, correspondent Richard Roth follows up tonight on what happened to a sophisticated embezzlement scheme in Chicago.
A First National Bank of Chicago spokesman called it one of the biggest almost crimes in the country, as the government today filed charges against 7 men and arrested 4 in the attempt to steal $70 million through a series of unauthorized computer transactions. 2 of those arrested were bank employees, whom authorities said illegally used secret codes that started the money moving.
So in fact, you know, in the world of money transfers, the money was transferred.
3 big corporate customers were the almost victims of the almost crime. The money was transferred electronically out of their First Chicago accounts into New York banks on the way to Austrian bank accounts, allegedly set up just for the purpose of receiving stolen funds. But before anyone tried to withdraw the cash, Merrill Lynch discovered a discrepancy in its First Chicago account and alerted the bank.
We are constantly reviewing and put a lot of emphasis on our internal operating controls. And we think that this is one more instance that we're as good as anybody out in the industry.
Out in the industry, experts say it's the kind of attempted crime that could happen anywhere. With a secret authorization code, the computerized international banking system will move funds in a flash. The real challenge is for a criminal to get his hands on the cash, and that's not so easy.
It ultimately has to be broken up into spendable amounts of money. As they say, it's not real money unless you can spend it.
Blip, blip. That's it. Blip, blip. Nobody moves cash anymore.
And it's not as if the idea was stunningly original. 2 TV cops just last week got a primetime lesson in a similar high-tech crime. In the entertainment version, like the real one, the crime didn't pay. Richard Roth, CBS News, New York.
And still ahead on the CBS Evening News, Barry Peterson reports on Glasnost in the space age, the Soviets' final frontier. And Bob Faw reports on why widows and charities in one small town are being sued by giant Exxon.
This museum is where they began their summer vacation. Everything was planned. Everything was perfect. Everything except this.
Hey! Hey, somebody grab that guy!
It could happen to you right here in the U.S. So don't carry cash. Carry American Express traveler's checks. Don't leave home without.
Presenting the winning performance, the winning look, the winning ways of Buick's great American coupe, the new Buick Regal. Introducing the totally new Regal Grand Sport with a powerful fuel-injected V6 engine, world-class aerodynamics, each wheel independently suspended to grip the curves, and the stopping power of a disc brake at each wheel. The Regal Grand Sport, the newest member of a very Regal family. In honor of National Tennis Month, get 2 Prince tennis rackets with the purchase of a new Regal.
When it comes to medicine for my family, I don't take chances. I go with the experts. When I was in the hospital with a sprained back, I was given Tylenol for the pain. It did the job without irritating my stomach like aspirin or even ibuprofen can. In our house, when we need a pain reliever, the one we trust is the one the experts use, Tylenol.
Trust Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
Thousands of radical students fought with police in South Korea today, the 8th anniversary of a bloody anti-government uprising. Richard Wagner is on the scene.
Today, in the heart of downtown Seoul, radical students ended their shaky honeymoon with Korea's new president, former General Roh Tae-woo. The students took over Seoul's main street to protest the president's failure to follow through on his pledge to help the families and victims of what people here call the Gwangju Massacre. That incident started 8 years ago today in Gwangju. Radicals took control of the city. When they refused to give it up, the government sent in troops. It was a bloodbath. Today in the Gwangju cemetery, the victims were remembered. The government said 197 civilians were killed in the fighting. The people of Gwangju say the real death toll was 2,000. They say the troops threw bodies into the sea and buried others in secret mass graves. There is no evidence to support the claim of either side. In any case, it was the worst slaughter of civilians in recent Korean history. The students in Seoul are challenging the president because his government has not paid compensation for what happened 8 years ago. They, of course, have other demands, but the primary one is full democracy for all Koreans, including the right peacefully to demonstrate. They claim if the riot police were not in the streets, their protests would be peaceful. They say the presence of the police is proof the government is afraid to answer its critics. Hate dies hard in Korea, a nation with a long history of rebellion against military rulers. Richard Wagner, CBS News, Seoul.
Afghan rebels were reported today to be stepping up their siege of Kandahar in southern Afghanistan. The city is still defended by about 7,000 Soviet troops, but Western sources say the Soviets are preparing for a possible emergency evacuation. The first contingent of Soviet troops withdrawing from Afghanistan got a hero's welcome today in a Soviet border town. Under a UN-sponsored peace treaty, Moscow is committed to pull out all of its 115,000 troops within 9 months. The Soviets put on a pre-summit space show for American reporters today, right at the Soviet space facility that's been mostly off-limits to the Western press. Correspondent Barry Peterson reports on the rocket launch the Soviets were all too eager to show, and the Soviet version of the space shuttle they were eager to hide.
It was a spectacular show, the launch of a Cosmos satellite, the featured event of an extremely rare glimpse at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Central Asia. This is the Soviet equivalent of the Kennedy Space Center. From here, where the first Sputnik was launched in 1957, 100 rockets blasted off last year. The Americans launched only 8. This facility has been carefully hidden from Western eyes. Indeed, it is hundreds of miles from the town of Baikonur, but named for it, say some experts, to confuse outsiders about its real location. Reporters were shown certain parts of the facility, but not the Soviets' newest achievement, their version of the space shuttle. A launch is expected sometime this year. The shuttle launch facility appears still under construction. 2 shuttles are being readied for space. These satellite photos from Swedish researchers show the long runway where roughly 30 landings have been made after low-altitude test flights. It will look a lot like the American space shuttle, say Soviet cosmonauts who have seen it.
The same shape, the laws of aerodynamics are with no difference on different continents.
At Star City, the training complex near Moscow, cosmonauts routinely practice for duty aboard the Mir space station. The water simulates weightlessness. At the Moscow Control Center, monitoring a real spacewalk aboard the Mir is just another day's work. The station has been manned continuously for 15 months. This bad time for the American space program is a good time for the Soviets to pull ahead.
The Soviets are much more desperate and much more pushing much harder to use space because they see in it a way to overcome their inherent backwardness in many areas.
So, for the Soviets, one of the best uses of space is right here on Earth. making the point barely 2 weeks before the summit that the Soviets can do with ease what the Americans lately are having trouble doing at all. Barry Peterson, CBS News, at the Baikonur Cosmodrome.
The Soviet Union today admitted a major explosion last week at a chemical factory complex in Pavlograd, but only after the U.S. Pentagon first revealed it last night. The Soviets deny most of the Pentagon's account of what happened. They deny it was rocket fuel that exploded, deny that it forced a halt in Soviet production of the big SS-24, the new mobile missile that's a Soviet version of the American MX. The Soviets do say the blast killed 3 and injured 5. 11 passengers were killed when fire swept through a Soviet cruise ship anchored in Osaka, Japan early today. That ship was carrying a Soviet youth group on a tour of Japan. 35 people were injured. Others saved themselves by breaking windows and jumping into the water. Japanese authorities said more lives might have been saved if the Soviets had not waited an hour before they called for help. A 10-day siege ended today at the holiest shrine of the Sikh religion in India. 46 Sikh radicals surrendered to Indian police who were surrounding the Golden Temple in Amritsar. 42 people were killed in the battle. 4 other Sikhs committed suicide rather than give up.
Fat chance. Finding a faucet made as well as a price fister. After all, it's the one made in its own USA foundry. The one uniquely fashioned with a heart of solid brass. Start to finish, the quality is first rate. Furthermore, the cost is a fraction of what you'd expect. So why fiddle around? Get a price fister. The fabulous faucet with a funny name.
Now's the time to buy a home because Century 21 offices are opening doors for you. It's our Century 21 Open House Weekend.
This weekend, we're opening doors all over the area to homes you can afford.
And Century 21 offices are selling more homes than anyone else.
Now's the time to buy a home. So come on in.
Put number 1 to work for you. Century 21.
Call your local Century 21 broker for details of our Open House Weekend.
Mom, listen. Well, of course you hardly hear anything. It's my new Whirlpool dishwasher. Cleans great and it's so quiet. Mom, what's all that noise? Oh, it's your dishwasher.
Whirlpool. Know what's so special about this new Hoover Quick Broom?
No.
The most powerful motor in a lightweight vacuum we've ever made. And its see-through dust cups easy to empty.
Quick Broom. Hoover keeps making it better.
Is that a new hairdo?
The housing industry continues its recovery from the slump that followed October's stock market crash, but the Commerce Department says housing construction in April rose just 0.5%, an indication the rebound may be leveling off in the face of higher mortgage rates. And the report said building permits, a sign of future activity, fell 4.1% last month. Well, it shapes up as a battle between a lot of Davids and one Goliath. It began when the federal government ruled that Exxon, big oil's biggest arm, overcharged customers for oil it pumped from a tiny town in Texas. Exxon had to pay the government $2.1 billion. Now, Exxon is trying to get back some of that money by suing the landowners who received part of the profits from the overcharging. And Bob Fall reports some of the Davids are fighting back.
Presenting in one corner, mighty Exxon, the country's largest oil corporation. In the other corner, some people in tiny Hawkins, Texas, population 1,300, where widow Esther Ruth Langford grows tomatoes. Joanne Minshew teaches high school business, and Frank Morrison wonders how Hawkins will ever get by.
Yeah, oh yeah, everybody is shook up about it.
Shook up because when the federal government found that Exxon overcharged customers for 6 years for crude oil pumped from the Hawkins fields, mighty Exxon decided that the people the company paid for that oil should pay the money back. Plus interest and penalties, Exxon ran up in its long legal fight. The Minshews, for example, who received 45,000 Exxon dollars.
My husband owes them $156,000.
The widow Langford, who gets by mostly on Social Security. Exxon is suing her for $37,000.
I don't know. I don't have it.
To get its money, Exxon is also suing the local cemetery association, the Salvation Army, the Boy Scouts, even Jarvis Christian College, which which can barely raise its $6 million annual budget, has been told to pony up $8.5 million to Exxon.
We're talking about pulling the plug because there is nothing that Jarvis could do to recover from that.
Some here fighting back have sued Exxon. Others, giving in, have accepted Exxon's offer to settle for less than the full amount.
You can fight them, but you're going to lose.
We asked Exxon headquarters to provide someone who could explain how a corporation which last year took in $76 billion has to sue poor widows and the Boy Scouts. Exxon refused to provide anyone.
Exxon did provide a statement which says the people of Hawkins were warned repeatedly they might have to return some money, and that it's only fair those who pocketed the overcharge should pay it back.
It wasn't my doing. It was theirs.
If a person sues the Boy Scouts of America, a person sues the Salvation Army, I mean, couldn't they let the corporate jet sit on the ground for one day and say, look, we're going to do this for the Boy Scouts?
According to the man who wrote the book on corporate excellence, yes, Exxon could.
This is insane. This is outrageous. The person half of me reacts with outrage. The management half of me reacts with sadness because it didn't have to be handled in such a bumbling fashion.
All of which has been a real eye-opener for the good people of Hawkins.
It's money. Money is the name of the game, not people.
They did wrong, but they want us to write it for them. Then it's really wrong.
They still observe the rituals in Hawkins these days, but the lyrics don't seem quite the same. Here, where the blessing of black gold has become a kind of curse, and the corporate giant is left with a black eye. Bob Fall, CBS News, Hawkins, Texas.
You may remember our advance report last night on the special election to decide if Denver should be allowed to annex land for a new $3 billion airport. Well, more than 55% of the voters backed the proposal, which could lead to construction of what aviation authorities say could become the second busiest airport in the nation.
It takes time to get your gal to see the light. It takes time. It isn't always love inside. From the first little glance, till she's ready for romance. Remember, little man, it takes time. It takes time to make the coffee percolate. It takes time to get your gal to set the date. From the first moonlit walk till you get the baby talk.
Introducing the Elegance Collection from Citizen.
Yeah.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath long about a Saturday night. Gloved up, got a clog in my tub, so I jumped out and fixed it up right. Just poured in liquid Drano, soon the clog was all gone. They call it liquid Drano, baby, no, it's real strong. Yipe sipes and it won't hurt your pipes. Metal pipes or plastic, liquid Drano's just fantastic. Now I'm splishing and a splashing.
Liquid Drano, the liquid strong enough to be called Drano.
This hammer is twice as strong as this hammer. Tums EX is twice as strong as Rolaids, so Tums neutralizes twice the stomach acid. Tums EX, twice as strong as Rolaids.
Sarah, keep an eye on your brother.
No matter what size your business, no matter what size the job, Konica copiers are ready. Konica, capturing the imagination.
Pope John Paul traded some more blunt words with the government of Paraguay today. He said the country run by President Alfredo Stroessner is suffering from a concept of life that puts wealth and power ahead of human needs. Stroessner's party newspaper lashed back at the Pope for meeting with opposition activists, calling them destroyers of society. The Pope did hear some sweet sounds on the last day of his South American tour. It was his 68th birthday, and he got a birthday serenade. Another hard-driving clergyman also had a happy birthday today in England. Anthony Mason has his story.
When Albert Humphrey reported for his driving test back at the turn of the century, he was taken to a soccer field and told to reverse through the goalposts. He passed, and at age 102, he's still on the road. His 12-year-old Austin Mini is no indication of his now revered status as England's oldest driver. His most frequent destination? A country church. For the Reverend Albert Humphrey is also Britain's oldest active vicar. He has endured, he says, with no special formula for longevity.
Well, I try and cultivate a sense of humor. And if anybody is upsetting me, I take it, if possible, with a smile. So come on, come on. Lift up your hearts.
We lift them to the Lord.
Reverend Humphrey, Hump to his congregation, officially retired at 92. But he still volunteers to fill in for vacationing vicars. Last Sunday, he christened his own great-granddaughter. And today, on his 102nd birthday, he administered communion to his old congregation.
People who say to you, which is quite wrong, we think you're marvelous. And so I begin to feel that I am marvelous. I'm the cat's whiskers, you know, and all that kind of thing. And then I come to myself and I thump my table and say, you fool, you're no better than anybody else. Happy birthday, dear Mommy.
His one failed ambition, to make bishop. Never mind.
Thank you.
At 102, Albert Humphrey is a saint in his own parish and a demon on wheels. Anthony Mason, CBS News, London.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Dramatic savings now at Color Tile's fabulous floor sale. Every in-stock ceramic floor tile is on sale. This beautiful ceramic tile is now just 59 cents. Every in-stock wood parquet is on sale. Our handsome parquet is reduced by as much as 50%. And every in-stock Armstrong Sundial Solarian sheet vinyl is now on sale for only $8.88. Only at Color Tile's fabulous floor sale, and only for 4 days. Come to Color Tile and bring the beauty home.
You've never seen a shaver like this before. It's the new 3M surgical clipper by Remington. Hospitals are now using it, replacing blades to shave patients for surgery safely and comfortably. And you can benefit from this advanced technology by using the Remington Microscreen Rechargeable. It shaves as close as a blade or your money back. This convenient charger stand keeps it continually charged. And the Lady Remington Rechargeable also shaves without a cord. Advanced shaving technology from Remington.
That fire almost wiped out our company. But thanks to the Hartford, we met payroll. We got back on our feet. So don't tell me all insurance companies are the same. They're not.
When you need us most, we're at our best. The Hartford.
It's birth control for roaches. Black Flag Roach Ender.
Other products kill, but survivors breed thousands more roaches. Roach Ender brand kills and sterilizes young survivors so they can't reproduce. Black Flag Roach Ender.
I'm Harry Smith.
And I'm Kathleen Sullivan. Tomorrow, student activism in the 60s and the 80s.
Also, we'll remember the music of the Young Rascals on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.
Coming up on Eyewitness News, this dusty field signals some serious troubles ahead for Middle Tennessee, affecting everything from the water we drink to the milk we buy. Tonight, a special segment on a problem that is just getting